you know, have such respect for you for taking such tragedy in your own life and for looking at the rights unavailable to you and to other women, and instead of shrinking, to grow larger and to do everything that you can to change things, putting your own life at risk. How did, when your cousin was the victim of an honor killing at the hands of your uncle, her father, what about her mother? How did her mother respond to that?
The saddest part about the story is that it wasn't her father. It was also her uncle. This was our eldest uncle. And her father had just consented about this decision. The delay in her murder was because he was reluctant. He had allowed her to go to school, and Khadija was very much loved. She was a very good person. She would smile all the time, and she was always social and talked to people. She had such a aliveness to her. Whenever we would look at her, we would just think about life flourishing. And to think of her as gone that's why it was such a big shock that her father had hesitated for many days, and finally he had given in. But within 3 years of the murder, he had a heart attack in the middle of the night, and he passed away. And just like that, the mother also passed away because of cancer. She kept telling everyone that this is very hard for me to speak about, but when she was murdered, the boy's family had pleaded them to take money instead of murdering him, and the money would bring food to the table of this family. The mother would refuse to eat, and because there was nothing else to eat, they would force her to have a few bites. And one day she ate from that food, and the next day she said, "I feel a cancer growing in me because I ate my daughter."
Jane, do you want to take a moment? We did take a pause there before resuming, so let's take a short break in our show. Then we'll hear more of my interview with Khalida Brogi. Her new memoir about growing up in Pakistan and becoming a women's rights activist working against honor killings and exchange marriages is called I Should Have Honor. And film critic David Edelstein will review Blaze, directed by Ethan Hawke. I'm Terry Gross, and this is Fresh Air Weekend.
Support for this NPR podcast and the following message come from ExxonMobil, an energy company that's helping drivers pump less by pioneering more efficient fuels and advanced oils that make engines run better. ExxonMobil scientists are using efficiency to increase fuel economy and reduce emissions. Learn more at energyfactor.com. ExxonMobil, energy lives here.
Let's get back to my interview with Khalida Brogi. Her new memoir is about growing up in the tribal area of Pakistan. She was the first girl in her village to go to school. Her cousin was the victim of an honor killing at age 14 because she married out of love, defying the plan for her arranged marriage. Brogi became a women's rights activist, trying to help women stand up for their rights and stand up against murdering wives and daughters who defy the men of the family. She now divides her time between the U.S. and Pakistan. Her new memoir is called I Should Have Honor. Your mother, and you tell the story of your book, your mother at the age of 9 was married off. And what were the circumstances behind that?
This story is actually one of the most interesting to us. At the same time, it's the most sad because the way it happened was a very, very big shock, and my mother didn't really open up about it until very recently. She was 9 years old. When she was living in Balochistan with her siblings, she had a beautiful life as a child. Even though in those villages, the young girls end up being very adult at the age of 9. They're taking care of the house, they're cooking for the family, they're washing and cleaning and helping with the mother. So she was pretty much an adult, but at the same time, she loved climbing trees. She loved running around with her friends. She was this happy, positive person who enjoyed the life of an indigenous tribal society. One day, she remembers that her father comes in the morning. He comes through the door, and he's like, "We're all going to Sindh province." And she'd always wanted to go to Sindh. She'd always dreamed of this land. Everybody talks about how green it is, how beautiful the lush trees and fruits. And they had a lot of relatives in Sindh. So she got ready with great joy. She got her siblings ready, helped her mother, and they left. And that was the start of her new life. She had no idea that while her father had announced that they're just going to visit the relatives in Sindh, he had already said yes to her marriage in an exchange into those villages, and she was not to come back to her home. She says that if she was ever told that, she would have said goodbye to many people. She would have said goodbye to the street that she played in and the tree she climbed on. And this is the most saddest part for her.
Her father was 13 at the time.
Yes.
And he didn't want to be in an exchange marriage either. Why didn't he want to be?
My father has a very interesting story. When he was born, he says that from the time he started speaking or he was able to think, he loved thinking. He loved to think about what was outside of that village. It was a tiny little mud village, mud houses, and small fields, and they didn't even own the fields, the landlords did. So they would work for some other people, and he became a shepherd. And one day when he was 4 years old, he was taking the sheep, he was thinking to himself about the world and about how is it possible that there is so many other things outside of this village. And his thoughts just went through the whole day. And at night, when evening fell, both of them looked at the sheep, and the sheep were lying on the fields, not moving. He went to check what happened, and turns out the sheep had overgrazed on alfalfa, and they were very much bloated. So they called out for anyone to help. Their father and my grandfather, and somehow nobody was able to save the sheep, and this was very expensive mistake for the family. The neighborhood people survived on the milk of that sheep and the income from that. So he disgraced the whole family, and as a punishment, his father sent him to school, because school is the place where boys go because they can't earn any income, and somehow he became the first boy in that tribe to be educated, who discovered what an incredible treasure it is, and that's how he became the person who he is today.
A part of the story I really love about your parents' marriage, when your mother was 9 and your father was 13, your father, because he loved education so much, and he wanted an educated wife, he wanted somebody who he could talk to about the things that he learned, who could also read. And so he decided to educate your mother. And your mother found that she loved reading. And it's really, considering the circumstances, it's such a beautiful story.
Thank you. It is a beautiful story. It shaped the family to become who we are and to give us the paths that we chose, because when he made it to university, he started realizing the injustices even more. He had started thinking about women's rights and about the position he would one day give to his daughters. At the time of university, he discovered that his village not only had given him opportunity to go to school, but at the same time had also made him suffer by putting him through this tragic exchange marriage to a girl he had not met and everything. And at that time, my mother was 9 and he was 13. By this time, he was about 16 or 17, and he said, "I'm gonna marry someone else." So when he went to college, he saw a girl, and he was like, "I can't believe this girl not only goes to school, she likes talking about politics, she reads books." This was astonishing to him. And so he decided that he's gonna finally find someone who's worth him and marry that girl. But when he was about to reach out to the family of that girl to ask for her hand in marriage, he remembered the time when my mother came to him as a bride. The night when he walked into that room, it was a dark room, the first night of their marriage. My mother was sitting on a cot, decorated like a doll, with clothes from someone else, jewelry hanging off of her. her makeup all smeared because she'd been crying. And he remembered how much she was shaking. She was so scared. That 9-year-old girl who only wanted to go back to her mother. And he was like, that was not her fault. If education is what I love about a woman, I'm going to go and educate her. And I'm sure I would love her. And so he did. And they fell in love, and they were the biggest love story of the village.
It's a really, it's a beautiful story that has a really bad beginning.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, so, you know, your father believed in education for himself. He believed in education for your mother. He believed in education for you. Were you the first girl in your village to go to school?
Yes. My father, I'm always grateful to him for educating me. But more than that, I'm grateful to him for teaching me about honor. When I was very little, he asked me to come and sit next to him. And he was like, do you know how you will dishonor me? And instantly, I was so scared because I'd been hearing all these stories about girls who had dishonored their fathers and the punishments they had received. By that time, I did not know about honor killings, but I knew that it's the biggest disgrace you could do for your family. And I knew that somehow my responsibility was attached to my father. So I was the only person or the first person who could dishonor him. I didn't say anything. And he said, you would dishonor me by bringing bad grades from school. He shifted everything for me. He told me that honor can be chosen for a person individually, whatever it means to them. All my life I had known that honor was something associated with men above women. If women went out to the markets, they dishonored their fathers. If they studied, they dishonored their fathers. If they didn't wear their scarf, or if they loved loudly, they dishonored their fathers. But this was new. If I didn't study hard, or if I didn't bring good grades, I would dishonor him. And that really, really relieved me. It empowered me so much that I worked really hard in school. And when time came for me to speak up against honor killings when my cousin was murdered, I was ready.
Khalida Brogy's new memoir is called I Should Have Honor. Our film critic David Edelstein has a review of the new movie Blaze, directed and co-written by Ethan Hawke. It's about the Texas-raised country singer-songwriter Blaze Foley, and it's based on a memoir by Foley's ex-partner, Sybil Rosen. It stars musicians Ben Dickey and Charlie Sexton, with Aaliyah Shawkat as Rosen. Before we hear David's review, let's listen to a bit of the real Foley singing his song, Clay Pigeons.